Up and Adam, this is the Reactionary with a video that'll offend all of my American viewers, I'm sorry. And I'll preface this video by saying that I am not a conservative. Though I may agree with literally every conservative talking point, I am not one of them because they do not go far enough. They do not want to return to the good old days, the time before the American Revolution. So with that out of the way, let's get started. Now, first I'll offer a clarification that I do not want the British to annex the United States nowadays. Now, keep them as far away from us as possible. What I am saying in this video is that I would rather the British had won the American Revolutionary War than the United States had ever existed in the first place. And also, that if there's a conservative revolution and we establish an absolute monarchy with a Christian theocracy, then I'm on board with that. And so with that out of the way, let's get started. So, first reason is that America is inherently anti-imperialist. We've seen that in our history. So, of course, I support imperialism. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. We must do something about these idolatrous nations that worship fetishes, do human sacrifice, that kind of thing. And of course, the American Revolution was a colonial rebellion against authority by a European power, by a Christian power. And a bunch of colonial revolutions took place afterward following that because they saw that, colonial powers are diminishing, time to gain our independence, such as in Cuba and in the Latin American countries, the Caribbean, Australia, and then later in Africa, that they were actually given independence. They didn't fight for it, well, except Algeria and others. And of course, America published the Monroe Doctrine, which basically said, Europeans, stay away from America. And that was a pretty heavy blow, and of course they were supporting Latin American interests. And of course this ended up in the demolition of the Spanish Empire after the demolition of the Mexican Empire. And Mexico, of course, was a breakaway from the Spanish Empire. So it all kind of went downhill from there. And then of course the Suez Canal crisis, in which the British and the French were like, we own the Suez Canal. And then the Egyptians were like, no, we own it. The British and the French did not like this, but the United States said, actually, Egypt owns that canal. The Muslims own the canal. And then, of course, the Muslims all around the world thanked the United States for this generous act by doing 9/11. Alright, moving on to the second reason. America is inherently liberal. Now, you may be thinking, there are plenty of conservatives, and according to the statistics, Donald Trump seems to be ahead in the polls. Yes, conservatives are still liberals because they advocate for menial things such as freedom, secularism. So, of course, liberalism and the Enlightenment, secularism included, are wicked abominations of ideologies, and their very existence keeps me from achieving content with this world. And of course, the United States is founded off the principles of liberty. In the preamble, and secure the blessings of liberty. And of course, France helping the colonies led to the French Revolution, which was the worst catastrophe in modern history. And of course, the United States' democracy inspired a bunch of other countries, many of them former colonies such as Latin America, to adopt democracy and liberal ideologies. So this is the biggest reason, actually, why I identify as a British Loyalist, because liberalism is very just awful, shouldn't exist, never should have existed. They're failing miserably today. It's a train wreck. And third and finally, the British did nothing wrong. Of course, the British were fighting to protect the French colonies against the French, and they needed money after the 7 Years' War after winning it. If it weren't for them, we would be speaking French today. God forbid we ever speak French. The Americans were colonists who had a civic duty to assist their king in every way they could. This included paying taxes and rushing to defense the colony and the king. And of course, before the Boston so-called massacre, the colonists were assaulting British guards at the customs house. And of course, they were also burning down ships and homes who were loyalist. That's barbarous. So is throwing mercantile, i.e. tea, into the sea, which they were doing in the Boston Tea Party and other such events. And of course, we can't forget about the war crimes America was doing in the war. Of course, there was John Paul Jones, who sailed to a Dutch port without an ensign, so he was a pirate. And then, of course, you had the Americans, who were, well, this wasn't a war crime at the time, but they were keeping slaves and the like. The British were working to free the slaves in accordance with the tenets of Christianity. And so those are all the reasons. Now, I shall be forced into exile in Canada with the rest of the Loyalists, lest the Patriots capture me and tar and feather me.